Hi, I'm Hal Roberts. This is Bridge City News. Here's some of the top stories we've been following. Stats Canada says we've seen the largest increase in inflation in 4 decades as the prices of food and fuel continue to skyrocket. The Alberta government announced more help for low-income students in the form of non-repayable bursaries. And it was the official grand opening of Festival Square in Lethbridge. The city marked the occasion with a special ribbon-cutting ceremony.
Your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News with Hal Roberts.
Thanks so much for joining us. A close to 50% jump in gas prices fueled the largest rise in inflation in 40 years last month. The Consumer Price Index in May rose 7.7% compared with a year ago. That's the largest increase since January of 1983. Analysts say the pain at the pumps is the result of high crude oil prices caused by supply bottlenecks following Russia's invasion of Ukraine. There was also a leap in demand once COVID-19 restrictions eased. Gas prices jumped 12% between April and May. That's the largest one-month price increase since January of 2003. Dan McTagg is the president of Canadians for Affordable Energy. He joins us now from Ontario, and he says, fortunately, as oil production has been ramping up, we should be getting a break at the pumps fairly soon.
Look, in the past week and a half, the wholesale price for gasoline has dropped about 13, 14 cents a liter. And I'm looking at another 5 potentially by Friday if I look at the Chicago spot market. Seems to me that if you're still paying $1.93.9 here in Bridge City, you may want to ask the question, if it's costing them $1.71 to buy their fuel, why are they charging an additional 22 cents a liter? And if
Meanwhile, grocery prices have risen 9.7% in May compared with a year ago as the cost of nearly everything in the shopping cart went up. Stats Canada says the cost of edible fats and oils gained 30%, while fresh vegetable prices rose 10%. The Canadian Dairy Commission has approved a second price increase for milk this year. The Crown Corporation, which oversees Canada's dairy supply management, says farm gate milk prices will go up around 2 cents a litre or 2.5% starting September the 1st. This increase comes after milk prices rose 6 cents a litre or around 8.4% in February. The Commission says it will review prices again this fall. Industry experts say feed, energy and fertilizer costs have gone up substantially, which contributed to the rise in milk prices. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney made a cabinet shuffle. The UCP leader had to bring in new ministers on board to replace some of those who had to give up their portfolios as they're seeking the party's leadership. Some of the more notable changes include having Jason Nixon replace Travis Taves as finance minister. Winnie Isaac becomes the new Minister of Environment and Parks. Calgary South East MLA Matt Jones becomes the Minister of Children's Services. Prasad Panda moves from Minister of Infrastructure to Minister of Transportation. Calgary Currie MLA Nicholas Milliken becomes the new Minister of Infrastructure, and Fort Saskatchewan MLA Jackie Armstrong Hominiak becomes the Associate Minister of Status of Women. The UCP will choose its new leader and our new Premier on October the 6th. The Alberta government announced a non-repayable support program called the New Beginnings Bursary. It's for low-income students to help reduce barriers to post-secondary education. Minister of Advanced Education, Dimitrios Nicolaides, says the province will provide $15 million over 3 years to help those who need it the most.
We are indeed opening new doors and creating a level playing field where Albertans have equal access to education and opportunity. These funds will begin supporting students enrolling in the upcoming 2022-23 academic year. As well, each year for the next 3 years, the New Beginnings Bursary will provide 1,000 low-income students attending high-demand programs with a non-repayable bursary of $5,000 each to help cover the costs of education and other living expenses.
The province is also bringing back a program meant to give schools more fuel price certainty while diesel prices reach record highs. Government officials say the program will be enacted retroactively to March and will remain in place for the 2022-2023 school year. The UCP says the move should provide more than $8 million in additional funding for student transportation, or an estimated average diesel price of $1.80 a litre. Education Minister Adriana LaGrange says her government is committed to ensuring school boards and charter schools have predictable and sustainable transportation funding. Well, Well, it was another beautiful summer day here in Lethbridge, another nice day for barbecue. Jeanette Rocher is in now with an early peek at the forecast. Jeanette, kind of looking like a mixed bag with some rain in the forecast again this week?
Yeah, that's right. The temperature is going to drop a little bit and bring with it some moisture. Other than that, though, it should remain fairly dry and sunny throughout the week. Overnight this evening, temperature is going to drop to 10 degrees. Winds from the southwest gusting to 50 up to 60 on Thursday, but nice sunny conditions, high of 19 degrees. As for the rest of the week, I'll have all those details coming up for you later on in the newscast.
Okay, thanks so much, Jeanette. The official grand opening of Festival Square Market Plaza in Lethbridge took place on Wednesday morning. City officials marked the exciting day with a ribbon-cutting ceremony. Video journalist Micah Quinn has more on the project that will provide entertainment and events in our city's downtown core.
The official ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Festival Square Market Plaza marked the start of a 3-day event called Lighting Up Festival Square. Their new entertainment area is located on the corner of 3rd Avenue from 4th Street to 8th Street in downtown Lethbridge. Festival Square was entirely funded by the Alberta government's municipal stimulus program. Andrew Malcolm, the Urban Revitalization Manager for the City of Lethbridge, says the $1.71 million project came in just under budget, and the main draw of the square will be its market and entertainment area.
It offers those things that keep people down here for longer, which makes the downtown more vibrant, but it also means that there's a better chance that those folks are spending money in our local business and really trying to drive our local economy.
Lethbridge Mayor Blaine Higgins took in the sights and sounds during the day's festivities and gave his stamp of approval for the project, saying it will make the downtown core more inviting for people to come down and have some fun.
To see people out and about smiling, happy after struggling for years with COVID, and it's super exciting to see.
Scott and Penny Warris are the owners of Analog Books in downtown Lethbridge. They said that Festival Square will help their business grow, and they're excited to see people from not just Lethbridge, but also southern Alberta make their way to the square.
At night here already, the street is full. Like between the Telegraph and the Owl and Tacos in Mexico, this street is a happening street already, and it's just going to get better.
For a full list of the Lighting Up Festival Square events from June 22nd to the 24th, you can visit downtownlethbridge.com. For Bridge City News, I'm Micah Quinn.
Putting a hot meal on the table has become increasingly difficult for many people. Late Tuesday afternoon, help arrived in Lethbridge in the form of $100,000 worth of food from a food rescue. BCN's Naveen Day has the details.
We are Alberta's largest food rescue agency. We rescued 10.5 million pounds of food last year.
Each family in this long line at Highland Park Townhomes is about to receive at least $200 worth of food items donated from various vendors. This is thanks to organizer Jackie Duhasek, founder and director of Alberta Food Rescue and Distribution. Her organization recently partnered with Main Street Equity Corp., a property management company that provides low-cost housing in Alberta. Duhasek says, inflation is rising so fast, most families can't keep up. The distribution events aren't just for those who can afford to put food on the table, but also for those who have to choose between paying bills and eating well.
If you can imagine families that are funded by government or that are publicly funded, whichever way, from EI and disability and whatever they're getting for funding to fund their homes, that those dollars have never even increased. So we have families that are living with no extra dollars, but the cost of living is intense. And that is why we're working with Main Street.
It's an amazing partnership. We're not just about quality housing, we're about giving back to the people that are living in our housing. Community outreach, like Jackie said, this is a full community here. Everyone's having fun. We're here to support the people that are living in our properties.
Duhasek adds that no one should feel any shame attending her events. She says they are not organized simply to address food vulnerabilities. The events are also about mental health.
Do you see everybody out there? They're all talking. They're all visiting. It's like a neighborhood block party, right? And they're all getting, and not one person out there is ashamed, because we're not a food bank. We're a community food rescue. We're all coming together, and everybody's houses are going to start smelling like this amazing beef that came from Hormel. And everybody's going to start cooking potatoes, and all the kids are going to start running around with certain vegetables. It's going to be great. It's all mental health related.
Duhasek says she plans to scale up her operations and bring on corporate sponsors for her future events. For Bridge City News, I'm Naveen Day.
There's some good news and bad news for Government of Alberta employees working in the Melcor Centre. We previously brought you stories on the repeated flooding and mold issues at Lethbridge's largest office building. Now with the recent rainfall, Melcor Centre has been leaking once again, leaving many offices with wet floors and collapsed tiles. Jeanette Roche has been following this story closely. Jeanette, what's the latest?
Well, according to the Alberta Union of Provincial Employees, more than 250 of their members work in the building while being exposed to flooding and mold issues, and that this has been going on for about 6 years now. But they're telling us the province finally has plans to move its workers out of the building. That's the good news. The bad news is that there's still 3 years left on the lease between Melcor and the government of Alberta.
We see a light at the end of the tunnel. The tunnel's quite long. We really, it's very unacceptable for the government to take years to come up with a solution.
AUPE's Vice President Darren Graham says there's also several Alberta Health Services employees who work in that building, but the union is still waiting to meet with AHS to determine what can be done about moving those workers into other more safe areas.
The two organizations hold leases separately with Melcor. We're hoping that they also are of the same position as the government of Alberta, so that they also will be renewing their leases and getting those services out of there for the clients that they serve, and finding a healthy workplace for our members to work in.
Now, in a statement provided by AHS, they said Alberta Health Services takes the safety of our patients and our staff very seriously. They go on to say that AHS and Melcor work collaboratively to address the concerns brought forward to provide a safe and healthy environment. Now, when we last spoke with Melcor Developments, the owners of the building, they had told Bridge City News that they always work quickly to remedy all the situations within the building.
And we did move very quickly to remediate it. We were brought in to help remediate it. We brought in dehumidifiers and commercial fans to dry it out as quickly as we could, and everything was cleaned up as of the next day. We are also bringing in environmental specialists to make sure that everything is up to code and is safe and healthy for workers to return to.
We'll bring you updates on this story as more information is made available. Hal?
Thanks so much, Jeanette. Clean drinking water is even more accessible now for those who live in Medicine Hat. Throughout the summer, a pilot program consisting of 10 potable water bottle fill stations are being installed on city fire hydrants throughout the Hat. Director of City Assets, Pat Bowen, says the city took a cost-effective approach when assembling the stations by reusing existing parts on hand.
These are parts that we have in our shop that are usually used as backup for various different functions in the water department, from our gate valves to backflow preventers to meters. So these are parts that we have available, and we will harvest those if we do need them. We had a very small amount of actual components that needed to be acquired, but for the most part, we're aiming for a cost somewhere under $900.
The pilot program will run through the summer of 2022 and will be evaluated on usage, community feedback, and a cost-benefit analysis. You can find the locations of the water stations by visiting the website you see at the bottom of the screen. Cities from across our province are set to host the 2022 Southern Alberta Summer Games. It should be a lot of fun. The event will also be held here in Lethbridge with a variety of sports to choose from. Anyone can register online, and staff from the Lethbridge Sport Council say the games are important for our entire community.
So instead of the traditional games events, we were able to host things that we wouldn't normally host. So this year there's going to be the badminton, golf, climbing, horseshoes, Indigenous games, and sport photography. So some of those are events that you would traditionally see out of Southern Alberta Summer Games, but some of them aren't, and we've never been able to offer them before. So we thought it would be a great opportunity to offer those to not only the people participating, but also the organizations to host.
The games are taking place in July, and registrants will play for a chance to win medals in all of the events. Manitoba Premier Heather Stephenson posted on social media that she's tested positive for COVID-19. Stephenson, who posted on Twitter, says she has minor symptoms and is working remotely from home. She says her office has informed people she came into contact with over the last few days. There are reports that the elementary school in Uvalde, Texas, where a mass shooting left 19 students and 2 teachers dead, will be demolished. During a recent council meeting, the city's mayor, Don McLaughlin, said following a discussion with the school superintendent, the school will be torn down. Also this week, the head of the Texas Department of Public Safety called the Uvalde police response to the massacre an abject failure.
There's compelling evidence that the law enforcement response to the attack at Robb Elementary was an abject failure and antithetical to everything we've learned over the last 2 decades since the Columbine massacre. 3 minutes after the subject entered the West Building, there was a sufficient number of armed officers wearing body armor to isolate, distract, and neutralize the subject. The only thing stopping a hallway of dedicated officers from entering room 111 and 112 was the on-scene commander, who decided to place the lives of officers before the lives of children.
An independent inquiry into Canada's response to the COVID-19 pandemic has begun. Scientists, legal experts, and healthcare providers are offering their thoughts during a citizens' hearing. Sonia Anderson is with the Canadian COVID Care Alliance, and she says it was very important to bring this forum together to give Canadians a voice.
More than anything, we want families to be able to come together and start talking about their experiences and maybe have a little bit more understanding and empathy for each other, because that's definitely one thing that we were hearing. Honestly, it was just breaking my heart to speak to people and to read these stories. And the one message that came across in every single conversation that I had was, thank you so much for doing this, because nobody is listening to us.
Anderson says you can join in the conversation at citizenshearing.ca. Catch the full interview with Sonia Anderson and BCN's Jeanette Rocher coming up in the second half of our newscast. Well, we enjoyed another beautiful summer day here in southwestern Alberta as we got over 20 degrees. Slightly cooler temperatures and maybe even a chance of showers may be on the way. Full weather details are coming up shortly. We had sunshine mixed with clouds today, and it was another beautiful day to take a walk along the Old Man River in Lethbridge. Jeanette Rocher is in now with a full look at the weather picture. Jeanette, the mercury may be dropping a little this week, and some rain clouds may be rolling in.
Yeah, that's right. On Thursday, we're heading back down to the teens, high of only 19 degrees. Nice sunny conditions, though. Fairly windy, though. Winds gusting to 60 kilometers per hour. 15 degrees, only the high on Friday. That's where the moisture is going to come in. We're going to see that chance of showers. And then sunshine for the weekend. We're looking at a high of 20 on Saturday. Sunny skies on Sunday with a high of 23. All the way up to 28 for Monday. That's more like it for this time of year. And then Tuesday, mix of sun and cloud with a high of 25 degrees. So we're really just seeing that little drop there for Thursday and Friday, and then we should get back up to average and even above average temperatures for this time of year. Now, average high, according to the almanac, 23 degrees. The average low for this time of year, 9 degrees. 35 was our high temperature on this day back in 1941, and in 1963 we had our chilliest, which was only 4 degrees. Sun rose this morning at 5:24 a.m. and our sun set this evening at 9:43 p.m. So once again, it's almost like it's the longest day of the year. We're looking at 16 hours and 21 minutes of daylight. Sunshine on the west coast tomorrow, high of only 18 degrees, a bit windy in the Juan de Fuca Strait there. In Edmonton, looking at 14 degrees, chance of showers, looking at a risk of thunderstorms. Same thing for Calgary with that risk of thunderstorm in the afternoon and high of only 14 degrees. As we look to the rest of the prairies, Saskatoon also seeing a chance of showers, risk of some thunderstorms there at 25 the high. And then look at these temperatures for Regina and Winnipeg. Lovely warm conditions, 30 in Regina, 31 in Winnipeg. Sunshine, also looking at some fairly humid conditions there as well. Now, Toronto has been under a heat warning. 28 is the high there, with the humidex feeling much warmer, so try to stay cool if you are in the Toronto area. Sunshine there, looking at risk of thunderstorms in both Ottawa and Montreal tomorrow. As we look to the east coast, so 24 degrees in Fredericton, mix of sun and cloud. Halifax, mainly cloudy, chance of rain there, 19 the high, 23 the high in Charlottetown, and up to 25 degrees in St. John's, Newfoundland with a mix of sun and cloud. About time they get some summer out there. There you go. That is your forecast.
Stats Canada says the inflation rate last month jumped to its highest level since 1983 to 7.7%. That's up from 6.8% in April and is due mainly to soaring gas prices, which were 48% higher than a year earlier. Many are attributing the higher fuel costs to the ongoing war in Ukraine. Economists say the report from Stats Canada reinforces expectations that the Bank of Canada will likely hike its key interest rate by 75 basis points at its next setting in July. Beginning in September, airline passengers will have more rights when it comes to refunds. The airlines will either have to refund passengers or rebook them if a flight is cancelled or significantly delayed. It is part of new regulations rolled out by the Canadian transportation industry to beef up its passenger rights charter. Thousands of Canadians have faced a slew of problems as airlines and customs agencies struggle to handle staffing shortages as travel ramps up after the COVID-19 pandemic. CN Rail says it plans on investing $365 million here in Alberta and $430 million in Ontario this year. The Montreal-based company has invested more than $1 billion in the two provinces over the past 5 years. It says the investments will be in technology, capacity, and network improvements. Transportation Minister Omar Alghabra says the investments will help improve the fluidity of Canada's rail network against disruptions to service during the pandemic. Now, here's a look at today's markets. The TSX was down 253 on the day to 19,004. The Dow was down 47 points to 30,483. The S&P 500 was down 4 points to 3759, and the Nasdaq was down 16 on the day to 11,053. West Texas Intermediate Oil was down 333 to 106.19 US per barrel. Natural gas was up 5 cents to 6.86 US. Gold was up 4 cents to 1837.76 US an ounce, and silver was up 3 cents to 21.45 US an ounce. Feed wheat is at $14.15 per bushel, barley's at $9.69, canola's at $21.75, and corn is at $12.06 per bushel. Live cattle were down $1.70 to $136.13. Feeder cattle were down $2.15 to $173.15, and lean hogs were down 88 cents to $111.85. The Canadian dollar was even over the past 24 hours at 77.24 US. Recapping one of our top stories, a close to 50% jump in gas prices fueled the largest rise in inflation in 40 years last month. The Consumer Price Index in May rose 7.7% compared with a year ago. That's the largest increase since January of 1983. But according to Dan McTagg from Canadians for Affordable Energy, oil production has increased, which should bring down the price of gas again very soon. An independent inquiry into Canada's response to the COVID-19 pandemic has begun. Scientists, legal experts, and healthcare providers are offering their thoughts during a citizens' hearing. Sonia Anderson with the Canadian COVID Care Alliance has details next in an interview with BCN's Jeanette Rocher.
A grassroots movement has started in hopes of launching what they call a national conversation about the impacts of the pandemic measures on everyday citizens. So beginning June 22nd and running for 3 days in Toronto and online, a citizens' hearing will be the epicenter of hundreds of personal testimonies, expert panel discussions, and a chance to hear from lawmakers and politicians at all levels of government. Sonia Anderson is one of the organizers of the event, and she joins us now to explain just how this movement came to life and where it's hoped to lead in the future. Sonia, thanks so much for joining me today. Great to have you on.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, so let's start off by giving viewers a taste of what types of perspectives will be shared on the panel discussions in the sessions of this event.
Ooh, we've got a combination of expert testimonials. So we've got everything from scientists, lawyers, medical doctors that will be sharing some of their scientific expertise with Canadians and telling them what they feel has happened, what they feel could have been done better, and some of their own personal experiences as well. And then in addition to that, we've got what I think is the real reason that we wanted to do this is to hear from everyday Canadians and hear the impacts that these government policies have had on them in the last couple of years, and what they also think could be done better for the future.
Okay, and what brought this about? How did it sort of come to life?
So I'm a member of the Canadian COVID Care Alliance, and I chair our Government Relations Committee. And in our committee over the last few months, we've been talking about ways that we could engage Canadians and politicians to see what we could do to have Canadians' voices better heard by our politicians. And so we looked to a few different examples that were already going on out there. So for instance, people are probably familiar with the Senator Ron Johnson hearings in the States. And then about a month or two ago, Senator Malcolm Roberts in Australia held a similar type of hearing. And so we were able to reach out to him. He was most gracious with his time. We had 2 Zooms with him and asked him some questions, best practices, what would he do differently? And the one thing he highly recommended is make sure you add a full extra day just to hear the testimonials that you'll hear from people, because there are so many people out there that are hurting and their voices aren't being heard.
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like this is obviously, the pandemic is worldwide, more than just a Canadian problem, as you're saying. They've held these hearings in Australia and the US. And how many people do you have on your panel if somebody were to listen in online?
Yeah, so we have a panel of 3 individuals that will be listening to testimonials. And of the people that are testifying, we have a total, well, it's over 50 and counting. Wow. It keeps growing. And these are both the combination of expert testimonials as well as from Canadian citizens from coast to coast.
Yeah, so people who have just kind of been affected negatively.
Yeah, and in many different ways too. We wanted to cover right from the beginning, so kind of chronologically, what were some of the issues that started even early on. In the early days when this crisis developed, we didn't really know what we were dealing with. And so there were things like lockdowns and mandatory masking, and what sort of impacts did those have? So the stories started pouring in. My inbox was completely inundated and my phone has been ringing off the hook. We couldn't accommodate all of the people that were reaching out to us. So what we're committed to doing after this event is sharing more through the website. So that's definitely going to be an ongoing project.
I think that many Canadians are alarmed and probably would be alarmed to hear about some of the devastating impacts that came about as a result of this, how this pandemic was managed, right, by various levels of government. So do you think that there's maybe been a wake-up call for the elected leaders in our midst who have had to hear from their constituents?
Well, we certainly hope so, because I think that more and more the tides are starting to shift. You're even noticing in the media that the narrative seems to be changing. Even just most recently with calling for the dropping of the travel mandates. Even just a few months ago, that would have been unheard of. But I know that just even myself, the conversations that I'm having with people have definitely changed, where there were topics that you couldn't discuss, even just amongst family members, are now a little easier to have. So that's what we're hoping this is going to do, that we really want to shift the narrative more than anything. We want families to be able to come together and start talking about their experiences and maybe have a little bit more understanding and empathy for each other, because that's definitely one thing that we were hearing. Honestly, it was just breaking my heart to speak to people and to read these stories. And the one message that came across in every single conversation that I had was, thank you so much for doing this, because nobody is listening to us. So we wanted them to know that we're listening, that other Canadians across the country will tune in and hopefully listen. And even if they don't stay for all 3 days, 9 to 5 testimonial, if they pop in and out of the live stream and catch some of that, and then hopefully have a little bit more empathy and a willingness to listen to what their neighbors are saying.
And now, Sonia, why is it so important to tell that human aspect of the pandemic? Why is that so important?
Yeah, I think it's because that's really been lost over the last 2 years. It's really strange. Canadians are known for being such kind and gentle people really around the world. We're normally regarded as the peacekeepers. I've traveled far and wide as a Canadian. I'm always proud of that cultural image that people have of us. But I really think that many Canadians have been shocked to see that their fellow neighbors haven't been so kind over the last 2 years. The people avoiding each other and stay away, or even conversations that you couldn't have within families is it's been so hard.
Yeah, I've never seen division like this before either. There's family member against family member. People aren't friends anymore. And like you said, neighbor versus neighbor. It's been something else to watch, that's for sure. So Sonia, in planning for future setback or perils that our nation could possibly face, hopefully nothing quite this devastating, but why is it so vital to have that cost benefit discussion from all sectors of the industry?
I think it's because this crisis should have been handled in very specific ways. There are a lot of people out there that will tell you that there were emergency management plans in place and have been for well over a decade. Yet for some strange reason, those just got thrown out the window and weren't followed. So it's really important that we need to take this back to the really sensible planning that was already put in place. Take a look at what should we have done to follow that and what can we do in the future. So this was handled predominantly as a health crisis, but the reality is it should have been handled by people that had expertise that would have covered a broad range of topics, from the economic impacts to education. There's so many different areas that should have been handled, and this shouldn't have just been put in the hands of medical and health professionals and scientists who have a very narrow scope of interest and practice. This should have been handled the way it was planned to be handled over a decade ago.
Because I think the important part of this is it is hearing those personal testimonials and personal stories, but more than just that, it's to come up with a plan for the future, right? And to see how things could have been done differently. So do you think that this will create a more robust preparedness plan?
Absolutely. And not only that, but even dusting off some of the plans that were already there and have just been sitting on the shelf. So there are people that are experts in emergency management planning. There are teams that should have been called upon that still can be called upon. And it's really important that we don't just go about reacting to crises as they come along. They should be handled in a much more planned, managed, calm way. There, when you have a plan, you can tackle these things so much better, and with far less collateral damage than what we saw here. So hopefully, politicians will listen. Part of what we're doing on the last day, in one of the last sessions of the morning, we have a cross-partisan round table. And we have invited 2 politicians from 2 MPs from each of the 4 major national parties. We've also invited 2 senators, 2 MPPs or MLAs from each province, and then 2 municipal politicians to join us so that we could see a really broad scope of government. And we asked them some pretty specific questions about what they saw were some of the impacts on their own constituents. What did they personally do to help some of their constituents? And what recommendations would they have to go forward to create better management so that the impacts that they saw within their own ridings don't happen in the future?
So what are you hoping to achieve by starting this national discussion?
So a couple of things. One is that we really hope that people can understand each other, have better conversations with each other. We wanted to give those that have been suffering through the past couple of years a platform where their voices could be heard. And then we wanted to really work hard towards shifting the narrative. And that means working together with other organizations out there and working together with media such as yourselves, and also working with various levels of government to really work in the best interests of Canadians.
Okay. Now, I know you're not only asking people to join the event via the live stream, but I also understand that you still have a call out for people to share their stories. I know you were mentioning you've got, over 50 or something. Are you still looking for more people to join? And how, basically to share how they've been personally impacted by lockdown measures, right? So how can people do this on your website? How can they reach out to you?
Right. So for the purposes of this 3-day event, right now we're full. We only had so many time slots that we could fill, as is the people that will be participating. They get 10 minutes and then 5 minutes of a Q&A session with our panelists.
Wow.
And for everyone, that was so hard to ask them to just limit their time to 10 minutes, but we had so many stories. But what we wanted to do, and one of the things that we've invested in with this conference, is very high quality tech, so that we could record everything. And then we're going to package each one of the testimonials that comes in and upload that to the website so that it can live on. We're going to be sharing that through social media so that we can get a broader audience, recognizing that these things are going on. And then ongoing, we want this to be a living website where people will be able to upload video, or there's some people that are a little too shy to share, in person or online. So we've offered that they can submit a written testimonial as well.
Okay, and then just a reminder, this is a 3-day event, right? It begins on Wednesday, the 22nd?
Correct. Wednesday the 22nd through to the 24th. We're live streaming it through our website from 9 a.m. until 5 p.m. And it is the website is www.citizenshearing.ca. And so if you go onto that website, we're still adding the link now, still adding things to it, but the link will be there that people can sign up to participate, and they can hop on and off during the course of the 3-day event. And then they can also watch it after the fact.
Okay, and you are having people sit in live as well, right? And you have limited seating for that.
Absolutely. So we have 40 seats available on all 3 days. And so if any of your audience members are in the Greater Toronto area, what they do is they go to our website, or I can actually give you an email right now. We ask them to register for those seats because we know that a lot of
those
people
are going to fill up fast.
So for that, they would go to info@CanadianCovidCareAlliance.org. And then someone, and if they let us know that they're interested in attending, they can reserve up to 2 seats for that event.
Okay, and I believe there's a roundtable discussion on Friday, and it might be of particular interest to some of our viewers. This is with various politicians from all parties and all levels of government, including senators, right?
That's right. We've invited, so we're still waiting to hear back. We have definitely many that have accepted, and we're still waiting to hear from others. And but yeah, we're hoping to get a really good, robust discussion and some sharing. What worked in one community could certainly transfer over to another community. And often you get a lot of really great, innovative ideas from just sharing your stories with each other. So we're hoping that those that reach out and join that roundtable are going to be part of the solution and part of helping us use this event to springboard to a greater impact further on, because this is really just the start. We really need, in Canada, we need a full, proper investigation into what went on and measures that were taken, and we truly need a national inquiry to get to the bottom of all of this.
That sounds fascinating. Sonia, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me. Look forward to seeing you and your guests.
Thank you. Sonia Anderson is one of the organizers of a citizens hearing, and you can stream the whole event at citizenshearing.ca.
You know, summer Bible camp has been an integral part of many Canadian childhood summers. Throughout the years in various locations across the country, these specific camps have been a way to share the good news of the gospel faith with many children and their families. Tanya Martins is with the Southern Alberta Bible Camp, and she joins us now near Lomond, Alberta, on the Traverse Reservoir. Tanya, welcome to BCN.
Hello. Thank you for having me. It's so good to be here.
You bet. Now let's talk a bit about the Southern Alberta Bible Camp. It's not always been at its current location. Can you give us a brief history of the Bible Camp?
Yeah. So we are heading into close to our 80th year. And so it has been at a number of locations kind of throughout Southern Alberta, one near Hayes and then one even farther south as it began. And then there was a family that donated this group of land, an area of land to us around just about 40 years ago. And the camp has been growing and building ever since. There was small granary type buildings for cabins, and we used to do teepees, small tents that we used to do, and chapel happened in a Quonset, where now we are just gifted with this beautiful lodge in which we can host camp. So it's been here a long time, and we're excited to be kind of moving into year 80 and celebrating all of the things that God has done on this property. So
You know, a lot of summer camps that I've been to as well over the years, we go to certain reservoirs or lakes, but sometimes during the summer months, they dry up a little bit. They get a little bit smaller. Do you find the same thing with the Traverse Reservoir, or do you have lots of water for the kids to enjoy?
Yeah, that is such a good question. We have usually start the summer with lots and lots of water. The Traverse Reservoir is part of our irrigation system out here. And so it slowly seeps back. And so we are looking forward to lots of water. We need a little bit more right now, but that's coming as we look at the skies, but it's good. We're excited.
So how many kids are we talking about that attend the summer camp?
We have the capacity for anywhere from 1,800 to 2,000 kids in a summer. And we had it a new cabin circle right before COVID hit. And so it's our first summer putting kids in those cabins. And we are thrilled to consider that maximum. We're at about 1,200 kids right now. So there is room for you and your kids and your neighbors' kids. So we are thrilled and really anticipating a full place this
Can we
summer.
bring our dogs?
No, that would be good if you kept them at home. Our cabins are not kennels. So, but thanks for asking.
How about any restrictions this year as we're slowly making our way out of the pandemic?
Yeah, as far as we know at this point, there was pages and pages and pages of restrictions in the last few years. And this year, as far as we know, everything is completely lifted. And so we are anticipating whatever we want to call normal these days, a return to camp as we have known it in lots of ways, where kids can run and play and interact, and you can see the smiles on their faces beyond their eyes. And so we're really thrilled for that.
But again, if some kids and parents do want to wear the mask, you're not going to hold them back for doing so, right? Obviously.
No, for sure. Through all of that, we've taken care of our building in even greater ways as far as cleaning and caring for staff that when they don't feel well, we kind of move towards that and make sure that everybody's still safe. And we've had lots of rental groups with schools of kids that have been here. There's schools that are still taking a really good cautionary stand on things, and they come with masks, and we honor that, and hand sanitizer everywhere. And so taking good care in ways that are intentional, in ways that we know will help camp happen.
Tanya, can you share about some of the sacrifice and volunteer commitment to developing this camp?
For sure. As I said, years ago, a family that has loved SABC and all of the other locations donated this land to us. And from there, the original lodge that stood on at this camp was built all by volunteers. And as we have moved through the years, those volunteers have been on our board. They have helped build new cabins. As I mentioned, that new cabin circle that we built moving into 2020, was each cabin was built by a partner church. And so they took on the finances and the physicality of building that cabin, and then they were moved on site. And that's just one tiny taste of some of the big things that have happened. But we have volunteer cooks, we have volunteer nurses, we have volunteer lawnmowers, all the people who come throughout the year to be a part of what has happened here over the years.
You know, a lot of the summer camps, as I mentioned before, that I went to when I was a child, we learned about archery, learning how to do the J-stroke with canoeing, even if a canoe capsizes, how to rescue somebody. What are some of the fun things that you're offering the children there, some of the programs?
Awesome. Like we said, we are right on the water here at Traverse Reservoir, and it's probably the hardest thing. If I could have had a simple lake name, that would have been great, but it's so hard for me to say. Anyways, being right on the water, we have canoeing and kayaking and paddling. We put in a number of ski boats and fishing boats and stuff in the water. So there's lots of water activities. And then on the land, we have archery. So you would fit right in. You could come and help us do summer camp this year. We have archery and all sorts of shooting gallery style and ceramics. And then we've got some fun big ticket items, like we've got a number of climbing walls, something we call the giant swing. So it's, if you think taller than a telephone pole, you get pulled up on a guide wire and then set free, and you swing nice and long and wide, and enjoy the scenery from up there. And central to our camp, we have two sides to our camp, actually. One's called the Fort side, and one is here on the Traverse Lodge side. And the Fort side is a little smaller, a little more intimate, and it's a little more rustic. And so they live their life fully around their campfire. And so over there, they do a lot of kind of more rustic games and things like that. But right in the center is a hill in southern Alberta, which is sort of on our logo, and it has a cross standing on it. And so Cross Hill is a neat place where our campers go and have good conversations and get to enjoy looking over the site. Yeah.
So Tanya, what would you say is the main goal or purpose of the Southern Alberta Bible Camp?
Yeah, SABC is a summer camp that is focused on youth. So last year we did family camps, which was amazing. But SABC is a youth-focused Christian camp whose purpose is to challenge, encourage, and inspire campers both spiritually and physically to equip them for life. And hand in hand in that goes the desire to develop Christian leadership in young adults. And all of that is encapsulated by a simple statement, to see lives transformed by God through the gospel of Jesus Christ. That's the driving force for every activity we do, whether that's writing chapels or shooting an arrow. That's why we're here.
Do you find that you have generations of campers who attend the camp? People say, you know, my kids have attended, I've attended, my grandparents have as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So some of those volunteers that built that very first lodge, their kids have been on staff, and their kids' kids have been on staff, and those kids are now coming as campers this year. And so it's a pretty extraordinary place to get to be a part of the legacy that's gone before, and to be a part of making the future continue to happen. So yeah, pretty extraordinary gift.
So how easy or involved is the process of attending the camp this summer?
Oh, pretty simple. You can head to our website, and there is a registration process that's right there. And then there's also videos, actually, because sometimes databases are hard to handle. And so there's videos there on attending. There are camps from anywhere from kindergarten to grade 12. And so no matter where you're at in your kids' lives or your grandkids' lives, there is a place here at SABC. And so simple. Our website is www.sabc.ca. Nice and easy, and lots of good information about our pricing. And we have promised that pricing would never be a reason why a kid could not come to camp. And so if that would ever keep anybody from camp, we would take that right out of the way. And so we want people to know that we want kids here at camp. And we have had, both in the volunteers, we have a group of people who love the camp and love that kids can go to camp and are hugely generous. And so we in turn want to be generous to families and kids so that they can come to camp.
That's wonderful, especially right now with inflation so high. A lot of families are finding it tough to make ends meet, you know, with gas and with rent and with food right now. So that's wonderful to hear that help is available. Tanya, we talked about the goal and purpose of the camp. When campers make a commitment in faith to Jesus, do you have a follow-up program to stay in touch with the campers?
It's a great question. I would say that in the years past, as SABC has gotten bigger and bigger and bigger, as camps do, that connection point, once they're offsite, it gets bigger. The challenge gets bigger and bigger. And so over the last couple of years through 2020 and 2021, we began an online YouTube camp experience called Camp for You. And it is on our YouTube channel. And it is a way for camp to go home with campers and a way for campers to connect with us as the personalities of SABC, but also the stories that they learn there and understanding of who God is and how loved they are. And so our hope is that to be able to take something that we got to produce in a season that was really hard and to use that in a way that will continue to take camp home for you post the summer season. And so that element is how we continue to connect. And we also work really hard with our supporting churches to connect those kids to those churches, sending home opportunities for them to connect names of churches, names of children's directors and pastors and youth pastors. So that we can protect their privacy, but also let them have the support of going home. So yeah, it's not a simple answer, but it is one that we are rising to the challenge of. Yeah.
What has the feedback been like from some of the children who have attended the camp in the past? Maybe you could share a testimonial from a child's life that was dramatically changed, impacted in a big way.
Oh man, there really are just so many. We have a young family who have been a part of SABC in a number of ways, and they have a whole swack of kids. And they had been a part of our camp for pre-COVID. And I know that we're not here to talk about that, but it's just a part of the story. So in the early years when the kids were really little, they would come to camp and they loved it and we just found that sense of like freedom and joy here. And then when camp didn't happen during those years, there was this telling the campers that year that we could not do camp in person. The messages that we got from kids that the deep sadness that they were not able to be on site and then getting to offer them back Camp for You. We heard a story during that season where God took a couple of little loaves and fishes that we called Camp for You and expanded it in massive ways. We had that family, they actually streamed Camp for You in their garage and opened it up. And so their neighbors down the street, down their whole street would come and watch Camp for You in their garage safely in all of the COVID stuff that was happening, but made a way for camp to actually get off site and impact those kids that couldn't afford to come to camp, kids that their parents maybe wouldn't have known to send their kids to camp. We got to see camp go out in a way that we had never thought. And the impact on those kids in particular, getting to tell their friends about Jesus right in their backyard was profound. This summer, the kids are coming back and we're thrilled and we can't wait to have those stories happen at our picnic tables and around our firesides. So, yeah.
Tanya, we only have a couple of minutes left here, but I wanted to ask you more specifically about family camp. Let's circle back to that for just a moment. What can families really expect from family camp?
Sure. Last year was our first time ever. And so we learned a ton. Because it was so great, we have taken our last week of summer camp this year and made it into family camp. And so what they can expect is an opportunity to get away as a family and experience the joy and the wonderful chaos that is summer camp. We're going to cook for you. We're going to schedule for you. We're going to make sure that everything is ready and fun for you to get to see your kids go up on the giant swing and have your kids see you go up on the giant swing. Kind of trying new things and breaking barriers and having a chance to talk about their faith together here is probably our favorite thing about family camp from last summer, and looking forward to this one for that 1 week. Yeah.
So if people want to reach out to you about some of the various camps, how can they best connect with you?
Sure. As I said, the website has a contact us button, which is nice and easy. You can email info@sabc.ca. We like to keep things simple. Yeah, those are probably our easiest ways, as well as we have Facebook, Instagram, Southern Alberta Bible Camp, and our YouTube channel has a great collection of videos that give you a taste. You keep asking, or you've asked, what can they expect? Heading over to the YouTube channel gives you some really great taste of all of the fun things, but also the faith and the feeling things that you can expect here at SABC. So those would be 3 really great ways: the website, our social medias, and the YouTube channel, or just simply email us, and our phone number's on there too.
So Tanya,
yeah.
before we let you go, what do you think is the biggest reward for you being involved with SABC?
Wow, that is a great and sort of unfair question. I'm sort of the camp mom, and so I get the opportunity to work with all of those campers, and also that much closer with all of the staff that get to work with those campers. And so right now I have a group of about 25 staff that are preparing camp for all of those kids. And that is one of the biggest rewards, is seeing God's continual transformation in the lives of young adults and teenagers, so that they can share that with kids. And just getting to be a piece of that journey in their lives I don't often have words. I usually just have tears. And so I'm deeply grateful for the opportunity to be here at SABC and to share it with all of you.
Thanks so much. Tanya Martins is the program manager for Southern Alberta Bible Camp. Thanks for joining us today from Traverse Reservoir near Lomond, Alberta.
Thanks so much for having me.
On behalf of all of us here at Bridge City News, I'm Hal Roberts. God bless, and thanks for watching.